In this video, we'll talk about inheritance in Java. So this idea of inheritance is very similar to the idea of inheriting things in the real world, right? So if you look at who you are as a person, you probably have heard somebody say, hey, you look just like your grandfather, or you look like your dad. You have the same nose as your mom or as your aunt. Now, when you hear that word, that means you have inherited certain traits from your parents or from your family lineage. So it's the same concept here. Now, keep in mind when we talk about programming, when we talk about Java, we're talking about building blocks. We're talking about creating this software, huge software, but pieces by pieces. So we create classes, and those classes are part of the big picture of what we're trying to create ultimately. Okay, this may sound a little bit confusing, but it's not too bad. So inheritance allows us to create classes with all the properties, instance variables, and behaviors, and we use those classes to create other classes with the same sort of behaviors and properties. Okay, so the idea here is let's use an animal as the main class. Okay, now keep in mind when I talk about animal here, think of it as this abstract idea of what an animal is and or an actual animal, right? So if we look at an animal in the real world, an animal has a name, right? And a cat could be an animal, so a cat has a name. An animal usually has a number of legs or limbs, right? And food, what type of food it eats. And so an animal also has behaviors. So an animal could make noise, grunt, and do all sort of things. An animal has a behavior of eating, could go and find food and start eating. And an animal sleeps. So you can see here, this is that idea. We've created here the class animal, which has properties, okay, and also has behaviors. Okay. So that's a base class of our animal, okay? But now from our animal, what we can do, we can create other classes, okay, that would inherit or take the same properties and behaviors from our main class called animal, our parent class here. If we wanted to create a cat class, well, in this case, a cat is an animal, which means a cat will have most of the properties of what makes up an animal. So as you can see, this arrow here would say a cat inherits from animal class. That means a cat will take all of the properties and behaviors of the animal parent, in this case, animal class. We could go ahead and create another class called lion, and these are all called children class because they are inheriting from a parent class, which is an animal, right? So we know that a lion is also an animal. That would mean a lion would then inherit from animals. Okay, we could keep going. We can create a dog class, which is also type of animal. Right? So the idea here is that we created a bigger print or a parent class called animal with all the properties and all the methods or behaviors. And then we were able to borrow all of these properties and behaviors to create our new specific classes. Because an animal is a very abstract idea, it's a very big idea of something, right? An animal can be me, you, as human beings. A dog is an animal. A cat, as you can see here at the bottom, right? All these animals that you know are animals, but there are different kinds of animals. So as we know, all animals have certain behaviors and certain properties are common, right? So we then take advantage of this relationship that we have here between the animal class parent with the animals, specific animals that we are creating as classes. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look in code how this relationship comes about.